Hi everybody. Today I got an important message to all of my fellow Americans that I want to share today. This is another serious video. I want to talk to you about what happened in Nepal this week. I'm sure many of you who heard of it, I'm sure many of you have looked into it. If you haven't looked into what happened in Nepal this week, I highly recommend you look into this immediately. But if you don't know, the people of Nepal, particularly people of my age group, Generation Z, they stood up against their corrupt government and they overthrew them successfully. And they took back their land. They took back their future from the corrupt government of Nepal. Now, why is this important to us as Americans? This is all the way in Southeast Asia, roughly. So why does this pertain to us? Well, I'll tell you. We could learn a lot from what happened this week in Nepal. The government took away their social media. They banned all of their social media from YouTube, everything, TikTok, you name it, right? Maybe a few apps weren't banned. But the most important apps that most of the people there used, the government shut it down because they were afraid that the people would figure out what's going on. So, by shutting down their social media, they thought that people would just cower. People would just be afraid. But what happened? Instead, what happened was the moment the government took away their social media, the people's collective IQ boosted. They had an IQ boost. They had time to realize, wait a minute, they didn't have the distraction of social media anymore. And they realized the situation that they're in, the kind of place that their government now created for them. The people of Nepal were living on an average of $1,400 a year in American dollars, just for you to understand the struggle that these people were going through. And all of that money that they were losing was being taxed up their wazoo and going to the rich politicians. And what made them more sick was that these rich politicians' children would flaunt their wealth in front of all to see. Well, not anymore. The people of Nepal stood up. They made all of those government rats run out of their buildings. You could see videos of them, helicopters flying with ropes, and like rats they hold on to those ropes, trying to flee for their futile lives. Their lives that have been run on the people's backs for far too long. Now, I think this is very important for us as Americans to think about, to contemplate on why blacking out social media would result in such a reaction from the people. Well, I will say it again, and you must listen very closely, fellow Americans. The social media, the TikTok, the cell phone, the smartphone that you're always looking down at, it is decreasing your potential to be free-thinking people. It is limiting your action. It is keeping you in the dark. And that is how they like you, obedient and in the dark. If you want change in America, it will not be through voting every 4 years, every 2 years for your local authority figures to put their boots on you, whether it will be a boot that has the Republican brand on it or a boot that will have the leftist Democrat brand on it. It is a boot on your throat either way. And frankly, it is not going to be up to the older generations to figure this out. It will be up to my generation, Generation Z, the young people, to figure this out. And it will be up to us to make a change. Because the old people, unfortunately, though they are not the villains, I am not saying to be angry at them, as many people on the internet do. They are set in their ways and they are used to this way of living. But it will be up to us, the young people, to change things. So how do you start? you start questioning the very notion of taxation. Is taxation moral? I argue it is not moral at all, especially now. The amount of money that they take out of your pocket. And for what? Not to better your lives as Americans. Not to help the homeless people. Not to help the veterans that have their legs blown up on aimless foreign wars that we have absolutely no benefit for. No, this money will continuously go into the pockets of the politicians that make their careers off of you. Question the fact that every politician who starts off at a fixed rate ends up leaving with quadruple the amount of money that they have. You know they don't get it through honest means. And all of the money that they take out of your paycheck, it all goes to, you name it, and you know which foreign lands I'm talking about. It will go to all the foreign countries in the world, right? Maybe a few. I won't have to name them. You could figure that out yourself if you have an IQ above 80. So all of that money goes to these foreign countries to kill and murder innocent people. And for what? And that is what we're voting for. Your vote is consenting the murder and the death of foreign people, and for the greater betterment not of you, but of the sick, twisted parasites who lay at the top power, the foundation of power that we give them. You give them this consent. You allow death, destruction, oppression of not only the foreign people that we blow up, but of your own citizens. You use the government, whether the left or the right, to force your own people the laws that they don't have, that are ridiculous, the regulations, the taxations. You wonder why it is hard to live on a daily basis? You wonder why you're struggling? Question the very notion of having a tax building where you go every 3 times a year if you're an older American to give your taxes to the government, to these buildings. Question the very notion of a building, a ugly corporate government building that collects taxes or creates regulations and laws to make your life harder. These people that we vote in, they do not make our lives easier. They tell you, they woo you, and believe me, I was one of the people who fell for this left and right paradigm. I was one of the people that believed if we just get the right people in, things will change. But things will not change when the very system itself is corrupted. So let me ask you something. To my Generation Z, do you want to keep going on TikTok, doing social media? Do you want to keep your head down, your shoulders slouched? Or do you want to stand tall in the face of oppression, in the face of tyranny and lies and deception? Well, look at Nepal. Look at Nepal as a foundation that it is not impossible to have a real people's revolution, not the lie revolution of the communist, where you have a revolution and then you replace that power with something worse, and not the false fixing things of the right, when all the right does is that they go to the position of power and then they actually fine-tune that position of power for the next psychopath to take over and do a better job of ruining your life. So I ask you, should we even be taxed? Should the idea of taxation be considered moral? That's how things will change. If you stop giving your money. And of course, I know you'll say, but we're not voluntarily doing it. They're involuntarily making us do it, whether it's through your job, where they take money out of your paycheck, or you're an older American who has to go to the tax guy to pay your money for a house that you already own and that you worked for your whole entire life. And the reason why I bring up the older Americans is because Generation Z, that will be us. It will not matter how much work you put. It will not matter how much hours you put towards having a home or to own something, because in this country now that falsely calls itself free, you will never own that house. You will be chained to a corporation. You will be chained to something called BlackRock or Blackstone. Look into those companies if you are not aware of that, my fellow Americans. But you will never be free if you do not begin to question the idea of taxation. So until then, you will continue to mire in the muck and the filth and the ignorance of the slave mentality. You will go and vote at the machines. You will be driving the wheel on the right side like the child, given the illusion that you're driving the car, when the adult on the left is really driving the car. Are you satisfied? Do you really believe in this system? And the last thing I want to cover. Now, all of this money that they take from us, all of the life energy that you devote to this false American dream, and as George Carlin said, it's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it. Now, with all this work that you do, if you can't keep up with the ridiculous demands of the Federal Reserve's inflation and our politicians' ridiculous laws and taxations and inflation imposed on your everyday life by design, this is not a natural phenomenon. This is not an accident. Whoops, your life is worse than it was 20 years ago. This is how they keep you as a slave, America. Remember that. And the constant chasing of the dollar. It's not going to matter one day. It ain't going to matter because remember what those bastards in the World Economic Forum said. You will own nothing and be happy. Although the be happy part is questionable. So, the moment you can't keep up with this ridiculous bullshit, it doesn't matter what job you have. It doesn't matter how much money you make. If you can't keep up with it, maybe you lose the job. Maybe you're old. Maybe you're old, especially. We will all become old and die. There might be a moment where you can't keep up with your home anymore, or your apartment if it gets worse for people like that as well, which it is. You will be vulnerable to the wretched monsters of these corporations and banks. And they will kick you out of the very homes that you have every right to stay and live in. After all the work that you did. But they will kick you out of those homes. And then guess what? The American media bourgeois declared this week through the mouth of the ignoramus Brian Kilmeade on Fox News that, you know what we should do with the homeless population? You should euthanize them by lethal injection, or you know what? Just kill them. Now, he might have apologized for that, but think about this. Fox News did not fire Brian Kilmeade for saying such evil on television for all to see. And this man, right after that, talked to the president, he talked to the FBI director, like he's a great guy, like he's a normal news guy, after declaring war on his own American citizens just because they don't have the luxury of sitting on their ass all day, espousing their low IQ on the news media. And they can't make millions of dollars for saying absolutely nothing, and they happen to be on the streets struggling. They're not American citizens in the eyes of the bourgeois. You are a nuisance that must be gone. You see? It doesn't matter how much of a good citizen you are. They want you gone. You're a nuisance. Wake up, America. Wake up.